now call the hearing to order. I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Treaty 1 territory and the traditional homeland of the Métis Nation. This morning on the panel we have Mr. Ed Sawatsky on my far left, Mr. Robert Buss on the direct left, and my name is Robert Hutchings. I'll be chairing the hearing today. Representing the Assessment Department of the City of Winnipeg is Mr. Spacek, and our secretary today will be Ms. Meepan. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussions to those matters. The statements that applicants or the assessor make at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by this Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and it is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the Board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or the Court of Queen's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemption from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with this Board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the matters to be addressed with each applicant following their swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by cross-examination by the appellant and then the panel members, and then the appellant's testimony followed by cross-examination by the assessor first and then the panel members. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the Board will deliberate in private and make its decisions based on evidence presented here today. You will receive the order by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. And please can everybody make sure their cell phones are in complete silence. Michelle, would you mind swearing in the parties, please? Jonathan, can I ask you a favor? I'm allergic to nuts.
Oh, of course, that's right.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course.
Do you swear or affirm?
I'll swear.
Can you state your full name?
Jonathan Spacek.
Do you swear that the evidence you want to give at this hearing should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing
I
but the
swear.
truth? Thank you.
Marcelo Navarro.
Do you swear that the evidence you want to give at this hearing should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
I do.
Thank you.
Okay, good morning to both parties. First property on the docket is 599 Empress Street.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And we were dealing with a 2020 realty assessment only, no other issues. Jonathan, when you're ready, please.
Thank you. We're looking at roll number 13001348100. To say it again, this is 599 Empress. This is just north of Portage, and it's across from Polo Park. Included pictures you can see on page 2 to get a better understanding of the actual property. We have a 2020 value of $13,019,000. This is a 1960s built 2-story with some major renovations that have given it an effective year of 1993. So this building has a basement area of 27,587, a plan area of 27,587, and with the 2 stories, that makes a total gross area of 86,512 and a total leasable area of 78,006. You can see on page 2 and 3, again, the triangular lot, 2-story Blue Cross building. It was, if you turn to page 4, it was purchased in 2005 for $2,368,000. And I just looked to see if there was a reason for the effective year jump, and there was, in 2006, $4 million in interior alterations after it was purchased for the tenant fit-up for Blue Cross, for the owners. So it was purchased, upgraded, and that's where you get that jump from 1960 to 1993 on the property. And you can see the finish on it on page 2 and 3. It does have a nice updated finish on the property. Usually it's a triangular at the bottom of page 3 with parking at the one side of it and around the building. Page 5 is the actual income workup for the property. We have 78,006 square feet at model driven $12.49. We have our standard OFS parameters on this, so OFS suburban office, 1 to 3 stories. Again, our parameters for 2020 cycle at 5.5% vacancy, 2% expenses, $7 shortfall, and it is a model driven cap rate of 6.7% to get that total value. Page 6, I put together some comparables in the area using a lot of the similar comparables across the properties say that are in this area, kind of around Empress and Portage in that area. But you can see I have my first 8 comparables are actually smaller square footages for some of the buildings with smaller units, and then my last 4 comparables are some of the larger OFSs I could find with large square footage like this building. So you can see comparable 9 through 12 are the most comparable on my list of this property. Again, you have 114 Gary, that's 74,000 square feet leased out at $15. You have 67 Spurfield, that's 25,000 square feet at $18.92, and you have 1577 Dublin, 44,000 at $13, and 365 Osborne, the most recent build of those 4 comparables, and that's a 2-story OFS with 75,000 square feet, $13.75. So you have a slightly higher rent, lease signed in 2017, but a little recently newer built building in 2006 when we have effective year on this property of 1993. So again, you'll see that $12. That $12.49 is there's some evidence behind it, and that is my comparables. If you turn to page 7, we have the income value. Again, just being shown, it is our capitalization rate sheet. Again, we present the same capitalization rate sheet for all of our properties this cycle. You can see from the top to the top row is office, the section of 4 rows, the top 4. If you look at suburban A or B, you have a range, City of Winnipeg range this cycle of 5.5 to 9.05 across all of our OFSs. If you take out the outliers, the low and the high of 20%, you're getting 6.2 to 7.3. And again, we're just showing some of the third party, what their ranges were for OFS this cycle. So you can see our subject property is at 6.7. It is between the 6.2 and 7.3. And that's what I have for cap rate evidence. If you look at page 10 and 11, this is the mailer sent in by the owner, fully owner occupied, showing expenses, but there's no sort of a rent to be taken on an owner occupied property. And page 12 going forward, we have our actual addenda that includes all of our properties today. If you have any questions on any of these, please let me know. That is my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Marcelo, any questions of the assessor's evidence?
In terms of the location, I see that you have some larger buildings here. 114 Gary Street, that is in the downtown, correct?
Yes, right by Broadway.
Did you get a chance to look at that lease?
Not in depth, no.
Okay. Were you aware that it's a government tenant?
Yes, I'm aware it's a government tenant.
Okay. 365 Osborne Street, that is, in terms of size, the only close comparable.
Yeah, in size, yes.
Was this built recently?
Yes, 2006.
Okay. Approximately where is that located?
It's on South Osborne, just past, Confusion Corner going.
The new building?
Yeah, the new building.
Oh, okay.
2-story MTS building.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those are my questions.
Ed, any questions of the assessor?
No questions, thank you.
Rob?
The leasable area is quite different from the gross floor area. I was thinking when it's a single tenant, isn't it sometimes kind of the same, the gross area?
Yeah,
leasable area?
it's often put on exactly the same, and then I don't have it memorized what exactly is taken off, like who went through and adjusted, but, I don't know the reason why it went from 86 to 78 and what's included in that, kind of whatever you consider, I guess, common space, but I don't know exactly what's taken out in this case.
Is that the 3.68 land to building ratio a good ratio? They have enough parking and stuff?
3.68, there is, 3 times the amount of space plus, it's adequate for parking. For this building, it would require, I don't have the map in front of me, but it would require a certain amount of spots based on its office floor space, so that's 75,000 or 78,000 usable area would require a certain amount of spots, and yeah, I believe it's adequate, but I have not done the math.
Okay, thank you, that's all my questions.
Thanks, Rob. Jonathan, so this is it actually 3 levels, the lower, like a basement?
Yeah, so it has that basement space, which if you look at it, the building's up a bit, so it's more like a bi-level,
Yeah.
like has the windows around the whole
Yeah,
thing,
This
so.
is Blue Cross, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my only question, thank you. Marcelo, when you're ready, please.
Okay. Again, 599 Empress Street, room number 13000134810. Built in 1960, but has an effective age of 1993. The subject property is a 2-story masonry wall structure presently used as an office building. It's located between Empress Street and Empress Street East, north of Westway. Current plan area and basement areas are approximately 27,587 square feet. The gross upper area is reported at 58,925 square feet, and the total gross floor area is reported at 86,512 square feet. The subject was again built in 1960, purchased by the current owner on January 4th, 2005. At the time of the purchase, the building was partially gutted and had been vacant for 7 years. The renovations incorporating PowerSmart design standards and technologies began on April 4th, 2005, and were undertaken as a historic preservation project incorporating modernist design principles and details. The renovations were completed in 2006, and the building now has an effective year built according to the City of Winnipeg of 1993. Access to the building can be made through an entrance fronting on Empress Street, through a rear entrance fronting on Empress Street East. The second floor has approximately one-third of the space developed as executive offices, with the balance of the floor being largely undemised open areas with cubicles. There are some demised offices along the exterior perimeter. The main floor has a higher degree of demising, but in excess of 25% of the floor space is undemised open areas with cubicles. There is a main floor reception security area in the front off of Empress Street. The lower basement level has a lesser degree of office demising and also contains a shipping and receiving area with a scissor lift, the mail room, staff lunchroom, a fitness area, and a storage areas. Interior finish is typical of standard office space and is considered suitable for general office use. Flooring generally includes a mix of carpeting, tile, and vinyl flooring. The ceiling finish is generally T-bar system and acoustic tiles on a metal deck with open wet steel trusses and recessed fluorescent lighting. Heating and cooling are provided by a roof-mounted HVAC system. The subject site, again, 101,529 square feet, and is zoned C2 commercial. On page 3, you can see an overhead view. If we look at page 6, we are going with the income approach to value, and the rentable area is 78,006 square feet. On page 7, you can see the rent comparables that we looked at. In terms of our method, we've demised the building exactly based on the floors. So we assigned the main area the highest rent of $14.25, the second floor $13.50, the basement area $10 per square foot, and the basement storage area $4 per square foot. So we've given the building an overall rent of $12.06. So the gross potential rent on that basis is $940,790, or $12.06 per square foot overall. In terms of vacancy, we've applied a 5.5% vacancy, shortfall of $7 per square foot. Non-recoverables, we hold on to our 7%. And in terms of the capitalization rate, we've used the same capitalization rate as the assessor at 6.7%. So the overall value, based on these parameters, is $12,160,913. And we are asking for a reduction to $12,161,000. In terms of evidence on the appendix, all we've added is the income and expenses that were submitted by the property owners. That is my presentation. I'm open for questions.
Thank you, sir. Jonathan, any questions of the appellant?
Just a quick question. Your comparable number 7, we're still using the same comparable 114 Gary Street.
Yeah.
Your lease start date is January 1st, 15. At $14, my lease start date was 2017 and at $15, so most likely a step up in there, and that's, my lease is just a little more recent.
Yeah, I concur with that.
And if any of these other ones had step ups that were missed, that could raise the overall rent.
Yeah, I mean, we
Slightly.
use these as guidelines,
For sure.
however, we adjust for location
Absolutely.
also, and the fact that it has,
For
for
sure.
location.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's all the questions.
Thank you. Rob, any questions of the appellant?
No, I don't have any questions, thanks.
Ed?
No questions.
Okay, thank you. Marcelo, I'm looking on your market comps there. No page, I guess, okay. Number 10 at 600 Empress Street, upper floor area 51,000 square feet approximately at 1475. Do you have any, who and where is that? That's north of the subject property. And it's an upper floor area of 51,000 square feet.
I'm actually not exactly sure what that one is.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does have a high rent.
Yeah, and it's close to the subject property, and it is also upper floor area, and you've lowered your recommended rate for the upper floors, I guess, but,
Well, one does have an effective age of 2012, and the other one has an effective age of 1993 also. So there is a difference in the age.
right, okay.
There is also,
Yeah.
this is a single tenant.
Okay.
Well, we would look at it as a single tenancy simply because it is demised that way.
Okay, all right. That's all my questions. Any requirement for summary?
Not on mine.
Marcelo, you okay?
Nope.
Okay, that concludes 595 Empress Street.
Michelle, we're short a calculator here. Next one.
I thought I had made sure that it was, okay. Do you need that right now?
No, I don't need it right now. I can use my phone.
Okay.
Okay. Next proper in the docket is 830 Empress Street.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And we are dealing with a 2020 realty assessment. When you're ready, Mr. Jonathan.
Awesome. Rule number 13000330300. We have 830 Empress. This is between Ellis and St. Matthews, pretty close to our last property. 2020 assessed value of $3,233,000. We have a one-story office building built in 1969 with an effective year of 1980. The change in effective year, what I could see was there was a $300,000 permit in 2001 after some flood damage. So that's the most recent permit I could find that would increase, do something that would increase the effective years at all. Again, this is a building with a gross floor area of 20,175 and a leasable area of 20,175. If you look on page 2, you can see a picture of the one-story office building. It's a little layout of where it is on Empress, the parking around the building. Very standard one-story office building. Page 3, they've always complied with our request for information. Page 4, we have the full square footage at $20 and 1 cent. We have our standard OFS parameters, just as the last property, and again, yeah, so, sorry, moving on, I've used the next comparables, I've used the same list of comparables on page 5. In this case, we have a 20,000 square foot building. Again, on the smaller side, I won't go over the exact same comparables again, but you can see at the smaller range of comparables, my comparable 1 through 8, as they are smaller, but the range is from approximately $12.50 up to $14. And then from our large comparables again, which, you know, only one is similar size, 67 Skirfield at $18.92, which is on the high end. But the other larger OFSs range from $13 to $15. Page 6 is our income value summary again. Page 7, the same cap rate sheet I went over the first time, very similar property. And page 9, you'll see again, fully owner occupied, expenses reported, but no information for rent on there. And a addenda included at the back with, if you have any questions on those, please let me know. That is my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Marcelo, any questions of the assessor?
Just one. Can you give a brief explanation of how the model would adjust for size here? I'm just looking at this one, and I know that we're in agreement here, but this is a 20,000 square foot building
Yes.
at 1201. The other one is substantially larger that we just dealt with at 1249. It almost seems like we've got things reversed.
Yeah, well, again, just had a quick look. Effective year on this building is 1980. The effective year on the last building was 1990.
But still, there's quite a difference there in terms of
Yeah, and
size.
you can also put, so, definitely 10 years effective age is making a difference in rent, and by how much 20,000 versus 75,000 is actually adjusted for economy scale, I don't know, memorized, but, I mean, you know, this could be at a smaller space, maybe it's raised by $1. I wish I could give you an exact amount, but it's, right, the 10-year effective age is, in a sense, countering the economies of scale, right? By the exact amount, I don't know, but
Did you get a chance to inspect this building?
I've never been in it, no.
Do you know when the most recent permits were taken out?
The most recent permit I saw was for that 2001 flood damage for 300,000, and then from what I saw, there was no major changes past that.
Those are my questions.
Thank you. Rob, any questions of the assessor?
No questions, Mr.
Thank
Chair.
you. Ed?
What was the square footage average for this 20,000?
The square footage of this building is 20,175.
Yeah, that's how much per square foot?
Oh, per square foot, sorry. It's $12.01.
So, oh, it's the same. Okay, thank you.
I know this one was being adjusted, so I didn't want to say anything about the rent and cap being the same. So, because I'm not sure what the revised numbers will be.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That everything, Ed?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. And I have no questions. Marcelo, when you're ready, please.
Okay. I'm going to make a revision on the value that we have, simply because we've conducted an inspection, a full inspection of the site, and we actually measured the building out. So the 18,056 square feet that I put in my brief,
Marcelo, could I ask where you're reading from?
page 7 of my brief. So,
Okay, thank you.
so the 18,056 square feet that you see there is incorrect. 20,175 square feet is correct. And you'll see that we had a report in here indicating that they had actually measured the property and got a different square footage. That is the reason that we put the 18,056 square feet. But upon inspection, we realized that the actual figure was correct from the assessment department.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So our revision is obviously to change the square footage to 20,175. We use the same rent at 1201. That gives us the same market rent as the assessor, 242,302. We've used the same vacancy, 228.
Sorry, do you have a revised workup in your?
I don't. I didn't have time to.
Okay, would you mind going
Yeah,
slower so we
I
can
will
update? Yeah.
go,
Okay.
okay, so 242,302 is the market rent. That is based on a square footage of 20,175 square feet.
Okay.
And a rent of $12.01.
All right.
We've applied 5.5% vacancy to it. That is a deduction of $13,327 from the market rent, giving us an effective of $228,975. Now we've applied a shortfall of $7,767. That is a deduction. and we've applied unrecovered expenses of $16,028. So our net is $205,180. And we've applied a 6.7% capitalization rate. So our end value is $3,062,388. And that's rounded to $3,062,000.
So basically you've applied everything the same as the assessor except you
The unrecovered expense.
unrecovered, okay. Yeah. Jonathan, any questions?
I have no questions on this one.
Okay. Any comments on the unrecovered allowance?
I've included in my addenda our non-recovered sheet, but if you've heard it all before, I'm fine keeping it at the 7%.
All right. Is that okay, Ed? Rob?
Yes,
No
I'm good.
Okay. Okay. Any requirement for summary from either party? Okay. Any questions at all? Ed? Rob? All right, so that completes 830 Empress Street. Okay, next property on the docket is 870 Empress Street, and we're dealing with the 2020 realty assessment, no other issues. Jonathan, when you're ready, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We're looking at roll number 130003830000870 Empress Street. This is just south of Ellis. Again, we're still on Empress. This is so it's a one-story, more of a bi-level setup with a basement space. It was actually built in 1972 with the same effective year of 1972. We have a gross floor area of 14,989 with a leasable area of 12,854. You can see on page 2 exactly where this property is laid out. So it has the L-shaped lot where it's used for parking, and then there's another property not related to this one beside it at the corner of Ellis and Empress. But you can see exactly where it is. There's two entrances, one along Ellis, one along Empress. You can see at the bottom of page 2 the picture of this building. So it has the doors where you go in the front there, you can see at the bottom of page 2, and then it has the stairs going up to the main level, and then stairs going down to the higher basement, like a bi-level setup. I've included pictures of basement space at the back. We can go over those after, but page 3 is just showing more of the setup and how it's lined up. Page 4, they've always complied with our request for information, and page 5 is the actual value workup. So we're looking at our first premise there of 6,396 square feet. This is our what we consider basement leasable with the bi-level space, and then we have 6,458 square feet of main floor, which is at that 1253. You can look, again, this is another OFS, so we have the exact same parameters of last time, but again, due to the difference in the effective age of this property, we actually have a higher cap rate and I guess the quality of this building. So we have a 7.2% cap rate on this one. And you can see that's a total value of $1,730,000. Page 6, if you turn to, it's on the back. We actually have, again, using the same rent comparables along or in this area along Ellis, on Border, Dublin, Ness, and these have the smaller square footages. But again, our rents are ranging, like I said last time, from 12 to around 1450 for the units with a slightly smaller space. And then I have included our basement comparable list on page 6, so you can see basement comparables across the city. There aren't that many, but the ones we have found are net. So you can see a good comparable 1483 Pembina. This is comparable 3 through 6. This is actually more of a bi-level setup, and it has a range of $8 to $9 in the basement. And then, you're at $9 at a building built in 1969 on Pembina with more of a bi-level. And you can see all the basement rents across the city that are net that I could find. They're all smaller units, but they range from $660 up into, the nicest, newest one. Comparable 15 is 865 Waverly, which is a 2,000 bill, big, nice basement, office space down there. It's at $12 a square foot. So our subject property for buy level is at $9.23, with the main floor at $12.52. Again, same cap rate sheet. We have a fully owner-occupied building. As for page 10, they've recorded the expenses. And then page 12 going forward is just some pictures from the most recent inspection. It was taken a few years ago. You can see the front lobby, main floor retail space. Page 13, it's showing the service elevator that goes down to the bi-level floor, or sorry, the bi-level basement. You can actually see page 14, we have one of our accessories, you can see the window showing in, so there's light in the used basement space. It is used as office space. Page 15, more pictures of the actual basement. And page 17 is just showing some of the storage area in the basement, lunchroom. And page 18 is some more main floor office, just to get a better idea of the finish of this building. So that is my presentation. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you. Marcelo, any questions of the assessor?
No, I don't have any questions.
Thank you. Ed, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. Rob?
The picture on page 15, the top picture, is that a window above the desk?
Yeah, so that's the basement. When you go into the basement, like the bi-level space, that's how the windows are. On the top of page 14 as well, you see that side of the building has the windows. And you can see on the bottom of page 14, that's all basement space.
Okay, the one on 15.
Yeah, so 14 and 15, it's all basement. You can see the windows that are just above the ground that allow the natural light. That's what makes it more like in our eyes, a nicer basement space with natural light as opposed to a closed off one.
Okay, no other questions, thanks.
Thank you. Page 5, Jonathan, I'm getting a blended rate of 1089.
I will confirm that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have 1089.
Okay, perfect, thank you. No other questions. Marcelo, when you're ready, please.
And if you turn to page 2, you can see an outside picture of the property. And an overhead on page 3. In the site area is 39,056 square feet. Zone C2, there are between 65 and 70 parking stalls on site, which is sufficient for staff and customers. Access to the building can be made through an entrance fronting Empress Street or through a rear entrance fronting on Empress Street East. The subject property was originally built in 1972 according to the City of Winnipeg Property Assessment Department. Has a plan area and basement area of approximately 7,449 square feet with a total gross floor area of 14,898 square feet. Leasable is 12,854. If you turn to page 9, actually page 8, you can see some of the rent comparables that we've used. And there are additional comparables on page 9 for basement. So we've used a rent for the main floor area at $12.25 and for the basement at $8, giving us a blended rent of $10.14 and a market rent of $130,279. Non-recovered expenses 7%. We've gone with, I believe, the same capitalization rate. On page 15, you can see the workup. 7.20 capitalization rate. We get an income value of $1,521,479. The recommendation is $1,421,521. I'm open for questions.
Thank you. Jonathan, any questions of the?
Just a couple of quick ones regarding the rent. we are close on rent, but just for all of your above floor space rent on page 8, all these leases started in 2013, correct?
Correct.
And any of the ones that ended before April 1st, 2018, they're again, similar question to last time, but there is a chance for any of these to have step-ups on their re-sign lease closer to the reference.
So you could have another step up.
Thank you. And then your lower level rents right under there, we are using a similar property at 1749 Buffalo. So these leases were signed in 2010, 2011, and 2012. Again, similar question where your page 9, you have some of the similar basement comparables with the same sizes and they're actually higher rents. So you would agree that those would be step-ups in the same units or new tenants at a higher rate?
Correct. I would caution though that 1479 Buffalo Street, from visual inspections that I've done of the drive-bys, has had some upgrades to it, so.
Absolutely.
So I would,
You can agree with me that 1479 Buffalo is pure basement space, no windows, correct?
Yeah.
And so, for example, your comparable 21, or sorry, let me just get the ones here I have them.
I guess what I'm trying to say though is that it has an actual year built there of 1968,
For sure.
but that's not the effective
Yeah,
age.
absolutely. So I get that. It could have had some renovations, but again, I'm just, your 675 rents on your basement rents on page 8 are, again, they're contradicting the $9.15 and $8, $9.25, $9.35, $8 rents at the same building on page 9.
So, I walked into the Manitoba CAA
Yeah.
office there, and in terms of the effective age of it, it is, I think, close to what we were saying.
Yeah.
Buffalo Place, what I'm trying to say is that it has had substantial upgrades, tenant improvements over the time, so those rents in place are probably a reflection of those improvements. So
Okay,
that's why
yeah,
they're
yeah.
slightly higher.
I get it. So you're seriously rents from both pages, you're saying upgrades were done that have made it worth more, and that's the rent, not necessarily just
Yeah.
that they're more recent rents signed later in time, closer to the reference.
Exactly.
Okay. And then, so, in your opinion on my pictures of that basement space, your opinion of Buffalo is nicer than the subject, or would you say it's comparable?
I mean, look, I was down in the retail space. It's an average office building.
Okay.
Somewhat dated, but I mean, it's functional.
Awesome.
I would say that Buffalo Place, most of the buildings on Buffalo have had major tenant improvements over, the last decade. It's a good area to be if you want to have a suburban office, so, I mean, there's a lot of demand in that area.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
Ed, any questions?
Yes, would you say that a basement with windows has a bit more value than one without?
I would say that if you have a building without windows in the basement, and it's less likely to have actual office space down there, simply because it's not a comfortable environment. So yes, it certainly helps. Yes, I would agree.
And the difference, other than a small difference in your per square footage, or dollar per square foot, it's the 2% versus 7%. That's the main issue.
That's right.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you, Ed. Rob, any questions?
The access, it's kind of odd property having access from two directions. Is that a plus, a positive thing?
I would say that most people who enter this property are probably entering off of Empress. That's how I entered. I don't know if I would enter the other way. It's two ways, so I would say it's probably an added feature, but I don't know how many people use it. Most people enter through Empress.
And it has a good land to building ratio of 5.24. Is that a good positive thing as well?
I would say that it's a requirement in suburban areas, there is a requirement for parking. That's in the zoning bylaw.
Do you know what the minimum would be for a property like this?
It is zoned as C2. Community 2.
Yes.
I'm not exactly sure of the exact count.
Thank you, that's all my questions.
Thanks, Rob. You know what, Jonathan, I have a question for you.
Yes, sure.
Sorry, I'm gonna ask you, I'm looking at your pictures, starting on page 12, I guess. And I guess there was an assessor present, looks like around Christmas.
Yeah, a few years ago.
Okay. Have you visited this property?
I've never been in it, no.
Okay, but looking at these pictures, well, no, wait, I'll put it this way. The assessor was there, obviously decided there wasn't an age variant warranted.
Yeah, I don't know exactly why he went, they definitely took pictures, did a full inspection, and it might have been before a past appeal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when you looked at these, do you think this reflects a 1972 office?
I mean,
I guess what I'm saying is,
Yeah.
it's looking more modern than 1972.
yeah, you know, we're getting on, what, 50 years lifespan on it. I think it probably could be updated to represent having a little longer economic life left. But
It's being it's well maintained.
Yeah, for sure,
Yeah.
for sure, I agree.
Okay. And including the lower level finish, right?
Yeah, it's not the original.
Yeah, okay. All right. And Marcelo, I have no questions for you, so that concludes 870 Empress Street. Next property on the docket is 65 Rory Street, and we're dealing with the 2020 Realty deal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Roll number 1306-075-3500 at 65 Rory Street. I do have, if it's okay, a recommendation sheets to hand out, just for an updated income I'll be speaking to.
Okay, of course, yeah,
Okay.
please, yes, please.
I think I only have 4. Can I give you mine? I'm sorry. I should have.
No, that's okay. We'll forgive you.
Thank you. All right, thank you. So, this property, 65 Rory, I'm making a recommendation to reduce the value, and I will be defending that in my presentation. Originally, it was $7,803,000 to $6,854,000. I'll quickly just explain the property. So, if you, it is located on the corner of Rory and Vanatine. It is a 5-story office building in the Exchange. It was originally built with 3 floors in 1928, and actually the 4th and 5th floor were added on in 2005. So that's where you get the effective year of 1988 on the newer, on the overall of 1988 for effective age. We have a leasable area in this building of 39,052. I used the updated, long story short, I'll get into it more in depth, but I used the updated leases that were put into place on this building. It's now almost fully occupied by a tenant that signed right at around the reference date, and that's where I get that 39,173 on my workup. So we get a slight difference, and again, the lease actually showed all of the units that were taken and what their square footages were. So, and then I'll get more into that after, but long story short, that's why there's a slight difference in the leasable area. And just so you familiarize yourself with the building, on page 3 you can see exactly what it is. It actually has parking on site, and it's all leased out at market rent. That is shown in the mailer as well. I will get into that more. But trying to think the best way to do this. So if you all look at if you open up the workup to page 6 of mine, and then you have my workup. If you have my workup out, you'll see the kind of where the main differences are. So the original workup had a. Sorry, one second. So So the original workup had a blended rate of $14.86 for the property, so that's model driven. And it's an OFC parameter, so again, this is in our rankings, you have OFA as the best, OFB as large downtown buildings, you've seen usually built in the 1970s, and then you have these miscellaneous higher floor multi-tenant buildings that are often classified as OFC, and then under that is OFD. So you'll see one property today is an OFD, it's an older, and you'll see the difference between an OFD and an OFC, but we have this one labeled as an OFC, 39,000 square feet, multi-tenanted, and it has had some upgrades that, again, raises its effective age and made it a little more appealing in the market for the exchange. Now, if you go back to my workup, the only thing I've changed on here is I've actually changed the rent. So you'll see my new rents are representing the actual lease in place. So what happened as I went down the rabbit hole going through the leases on the entire property except for Unit 200, which is the third row of my new workup, is a lease that's currently in place and has been in place, but the units 202, 300, 400, 500, and 100 were all leased by the new tenant in the building. As of, or the lease was negotiated as of the reference date for all this. The unit 100 was moved in first, and then unit 202, 300, 400, 500 were added later. But these are the current 5-year leases in place, and so I decided to use them on this building as it was the most updated lease, and it was signed right around the reference date. The owner would be, any potential buyer would be aware of this lease being in place if they were looking at purchasing it at the reference date. So I decided to actually go with the rents in place, and it works out to a blended rate of $12.87, which is lower than the $14.86 that was originally in place. So going down my newer workup, you'll see I'm using the same OFC parameters. So less vacancy of 10.5%. One of the issues in the past of this property was the vacancy. The main floor of this property used to be it was a nightclub. The main floor had a nightclub in place. Ever since that left, it's had a large 7,400 square foot vacancy, and so what I did was I did look at the past vacancy, and if you go back to 2011, you're looking at around an 8% vacancy for 11, 12% vacancy for 12, 8% vacancy for 12, 8% vacancy for 13, 8% vacancy for 14, and then it jumps up to 24% for 15, 20% for 16, 20% for 17, and that's when the tenants all leave and the new tenants come in. So you can see there's been years of good, years of 20% vacancy, and our overall OFC vacancy has stayed around that 10% the whole time. So in my opinion, now that you'll see in the future tenant verification forms, this building is fully leased, or close to, right? So that 10% vacancy has kind of been there during the good times and been there during the bad times, and I'm asking it to stay the same going forward because it's exactly why we use a 10% vacancy on a multi-tenant OFC building. I don't think there's a reason to change it to a super high vacancy because they had a few years of big unit being empty. So if that makes sense, that's my position on vacancy at that 10.5%. We're using our 2% expenses, $850 shortfall, which is standard for OFCs, 7.05 cap rate, which is model-driven cap rate for OFC, and then the other adjustments of $1,076,000, that's the parking lot. So I've included that going forward in my actual workup. I'll show you that after, because first I'm just going to go to the comparables for OFCs on my page 7. So if you turn to my page 7, I've adjusted the rent from around $14.86 to $12.87, which when I look at my comparables of OFCs in the downtown and exchange, you'll see that there's 37 comparables on my page 7, and again, wide range of OFCs. We have an average of $11.49 and a weighted average of $12.02. So these are a wide range of leases for OFCs. Our subject property I'm defending is $12.87 with my recommendation. The comparables are right within range of the weighted average of $12.02. We're a little higher at $12.87, but I don't think it's unreasonable for an OFC exchange. And if you turn now to page 8, we have our parking workup. So our parking workup is 39 stalls on this outside of this building, $103.50 net per stall. At a 4.5% cap rate, gives us that $1,076,000 on the parking. I would have everybody turn to page 9. We do have comparables of parking that I'm sure you've seen before. We use the same standard ones for the exchange for surface parking, but you can see a range of net stabilized rents from as low as $90 a stall on Net Zero Westbrook up until, we have an outlier at $300, but you can see that average around $100 to $140, like right around that $100 mark seems to be the net rent for parking downtown. We're using $103.50. And I just wanted to turn to page 16. And you can just see though the stalls are leased out. And I do have that one second. I do have the rates. You can see the lease rates of the monthly stalls are ranging from, this is gross, but $195 to $230 on page 16. So, and when I went through the new leases, each unit, there is a guarantee of at least 10 stalls per unit based on market rent. Like it's not included in the lease, that it's guaranteed they'll get those stalls at market rent. So they're still paying market rent for the stalls, they're not included in that rental rate for the lease as well that I used. And I did go through the lease and confirm that it was a net rent, and there was all of the property taxes, operating costs, like repair costs, operating, and the third one, CAM, is all recovered in the lease at a separate rate. So the rents I'm using are the actual net rents in place. Just trying to think if I'm missing anything else here. I believe that is everything. So that is my presentation. Thank you. If you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you, Jonathan. Marcelo, any questions?
No questions.
Thank you. Rob, any questions?
The main floor, did
Yes.
they turn it into office space now, or there's?
Yeah, so what happened was, from my understanding, is they signed the lease for the main floor first. They got a fixturing period, just like the other spots, and the tenant was in charge of doing whatever they wanted to it. It is an office tenant, office type of tenant, but I'm not sure what they actually did
They've
to
given up
finish
on
the space.
the restaurant and bar and
Yes,
stuff like
yes,
that?
yes. It is a pure, the tenant is a technology / food delivery company.
And the blended rate of $12.87 that you're using, you said that is from their net?
That is from the net rents from the most recently signed leases.
Reported leases?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, that's all my questions.
Thanks,
Mr.
Rob.
Chair.
Ed, any questions?
Land plan, ratio a little tight.
Yeah, in the exchange, you'll find they're almost all tight like that. Like the downtown bylaws, there's no parking required for office buildings like this. So they actually have parking, which is bigger than most you'll see. Like if you look on my page, page 2, you can actually see most of the buildings downtown. They actually won't. A lot of them won't have all these separated office separate parking lots. This one actually has parking included in it, and they lease those for market rates. Like there's no parking included or no free parking for, like, you know, if you work down here, you know there's no such thing as free parking.
Thank you.
Thank
No
you.
further questions.
Thanks, Ed. Jonathan, on page 1.
Yes.
So what is the actual effective age on the building when you show 2 years?
Yeah, so the blended overall rate on this building is 1988 from my understanding, and again, that is due to the original build of 1928,
Yeah.
and then the addition that was put on in 2000, the 2 floors that were added in 2006, making it a 5-story building. So I believe it is 1988 from the notes.
Okay,
I have a question.
sure. Go ahead.
The numbers on the plan area, like the land area says 22,000 square feet.
Yes.
The plan area of the building is 17, almost 18,000.
Yes.
But when you look at the picture, the building, seems almost less than half the size of the lot.
Yeah.
How is it that, according to these numbers, the building is 18,000 and there's only at least 4,000 square feet of land? That doesn't seem, it doesn't fit with the picture.
Yeah, so the land area of this lot, 22,000, I get what you're saying, and then so 17 would take up, it would be 5,000 square feet. Right?
Yeah.
Approximately is what you're saying, and you're saying that looks like more than 5,000 square feet?
Yeah, it looks like the building's barely half the size of the lot.
Yeah, I don't know if there is, maybe the plan, I couldn't tell you, I didn't notice that, and I didn't notice the error.
So 1.25 seems low. And
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Money for parking. But anyway,
From my understanding, nothing has changed, like model-wise, land-to-plan ratio doesn't have an effect on anything, so even if it was different, it wouldn't change anything, but it's definitely something that can be looked at.
thanks.
Thanks, Rob. Okay, Mr. Marcello, when you're ready, please, 65 Rory.
So your recommendation is, what was your final recommended value?
$6,854,000.
Acceptance.
No, it's easy.
Okay.
Did I hear right?
I shouldn't assume you wouldn't, right?
Should have asked.
I guess
You
you
should have asked.
I was
Yeah.
waiting for someone to ask it.
I guess you can tell what's happened in the cycle.
Yeah,
I guess you don't have to accept it.
I missed that one, okay. Blame it on me. I'm shocked, but otherwise, no, I'm not shocked. Okay, so the assessors recommended $6,854,000, and Mr. Navarro is in total agreement with the workup by the, revised workup by the assessor.
Just the end value.
And value.
Yeah. We agree on market value.
Yes.
Okay.
Understood.
So which part don't you agree with? Just kidding. We're not gonna go there. Okay, after all that. Well, no, you have to explain it, so. When you said no questions, why did you say something?
Because usually the chair speaks first and asks whether you accept it.
Yes, you're right. I guess I'm not used to that happening.
Yeah, well,
So-
you can tell.
We have to have some type of decorum.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
sure.
in Animal House.
Yeah, it's my fault. It's my fault, you're right. Okay, thank you. Next time, say something. Just kidding, it's my fault. Lost track. Why didn't you say something?
It's not my fault.
You know.
Next time. Look at the elbow.
Okay, so that concludes 65, Rory. And you know, I'd like to take a 10-minute
Of course.
please,
Fine with that.
recess.
We can allow that.
Okay, maybe you can go now. Maybe you can
Oh,
go.
I'm just gonna stay.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
If you see a calculator later around.
Yeah.
Agree with it.
According to my scheduling. Okay. All right. I now call the hearing back to order. Next property on the docket is here. Okay. 112 Market Avenue. Just bear with me 1 second. Jonathan, please.
No problem.
Okay, what do we got going on here? We have a 2020 realty assessment only, yeah. Okay, when you're ready, please, John.
No problem. Thank you, Mr. Chair. For roll number 1307003400, we have 112 Market Avenue. We have a 2020 assessment of $2,831,000. This was a original building built in 1898. We have an effective year of 1964. We have a gross floor area of 56,100 square feet and a leasable area of 39,100 square feet. You can see on page 1 exactly where this building is located. It's on the corner of Market and Bertha, right where the Market Street ends in the Exchange. You can see on page 2 the outside of the building. Page 3, you can see the view from the side on standing on Market Avenue. Page 4, you can see request for information always implied. You can see there's a sale February 5th, 2013 for $3.2 million. I am not putting any weight on that sale. It was investigated, and from the notes it was arm's length, but it just seemed a little odd for the amount it sold for at that time. It didn't make sense to me, so I didn't put any weight on it. Page 5, you can see our income workup. So this is classified as an OFD. Before I went through just quickly the 4 different kind of downtown office types, OFA, OFB, OFC, OFD, we're looking at an 1898 built building. So in the Exchange, it's considered an OFD. So this is an old office downtown. You'll see most of them have large square footage. You know, a lot of them are updated just to keep them running. A lot of them run, it's tough to find that rents on a lot of the older ones downtown. They're all a lot of month to month. You know, some of the buildings you've been to down in the Exchange, I'm sure, but you go in, they have the original hardwoods, they're polished, they put some fresh paint on them and lease out the rooms. This one's not much different for the units I have been in this one, the original hardwoods, old finish. Our model gives this a overall rent on this building of $9.11. So you can see across this whole building, including the basement of 6,500 square feet, this building is at $9.11, so keep that in mind. We have a vacancy loss of 20% on this building. So this has been an override that has been carried over year after year. The building has always, from my look at the history of it, always struggled with vacancy. From some of the notes I read, the 5th floor has almost always been unleasable, and it's one of the reasons for such a long drop in square footage from the leasable area to the gross floor area. You'll see the big difference in there. And again, it's always had vacancy issues, so that 20% is carried over, and it was reviewed this year and carried over again based on the issues in the property. We have 2% expenses, $750 shortfall, and an overall capitalization rate of 7.8%. Again, all model driven except for that vacancy loss of 20%, which is adjusted from whatever the model is on OFDs. Page 6, there's just a list of OFDs downtown. You can see the main ones. We have some on Portage, 167 Lombard makes up a large portion of the list. You have 4 from 321 McDermott. These rents, as you can see, most of them are all smaller sizes. You can see an overall average of 1140 and a weighted average of 1270. Our model is giving OFD a rent of $9.11. So you can see there is we're on the lower end again, quality, vacancy issues, year built. You can see all the kind of characteristics that would draw a lower rent from our model. We do not have any capitalization rates on OFD, so there's no chart on our page 8, but I believe all of our OFDs are at 7.8 this cycle. And you can see page 10 going forward, the mailer was filled out by the owner. You can see it's a gross income type. They put the expenses and the total income, total leasable area. They have 43, we're still at 39.1, so there is a difference there. We're a little lower on the leasable area, but again, the average space vacant in the 2017 year was 55%, just to give you an idea of the vacancy. And again, page 12, you can see there's an owner-occupied restaurant on the main floor, but the rest is a mix of some gross leases and vacant space. Page 14 going forward is our addenda, and if you have any questions on this property, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Marcelo, are you in agreement? So I don't forget.
Yeah.
Practicing.
Yeah. Any questions?
Yes. You had I can tell that you've had some time to look at the history of this property, correct?
I looked at the notes, like,
Okay.
not in depth.
Can you give me your idea of why this property has had such high turnover? Because I did look at the leases starting from the sale date, and there has been quite a bit of turnover over the years. And vacancy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's an older building. It's a lot of whole original finish, but old finish. I don't know the exact intricacies of the building as to why it's having trouble holding a tenant, but again, older buildings like this with a lot of small units, it's tough to keep full, and I'm aware of that.
Do you think it could be location?
Location's probably not helping, being at a dead end. It's a little outside of the core, farther from Portage's main as most of the exchange, right? It's kind of on the outskirts of, as the exchange grows, but it's, in my eyes, a little bit at the outskirts, for maybe business purposes, having an office.
And just like looking at your picture on page 2 of the front of the building, and I know that there's been a few restaurants here.
Yes.
In terms of your restaurants and your clientele, what do you need for a restaurant if you're going to have a successful restaurant?
Customers.
And where are you going to park those customers?
Well, again, being on the outskirts, you're probably having less casual lunches than somewhere that's closer to the central downtown, if that's what you're asking.
Are there any bus lines that go in this area?
Just anything along Portage. If you're a block and a bit from Portage, there's, from my understanding, a Free Spirit bus that runs down Bannatyne. That's probably the closest one.
Okay.
Other than all the buses that run down Portage.
Now-
Main Street, sorry. I don't know what I'm saying, Portage.
You'll see the overhead picture of it. That's the picture on top of the front view of the building. Directly beside it, at the end of the street, is a one-story office building,
Yes.
correct? And right in front of that one is a new condominium.
Yes. I think it's apartments, right?
Yeah. You're aware that there used to be a parking lot there, correct?
Absolutely, yeah. They built an apartment on it.
Okay. Those are my questions.
Thank you, Marcelo. Rob, any questions of the assessor?
Did you say that 7.8% cap is what you would use for all OFDs?
I wish I could say with complete confidence, but I believe OFDs, we usually have one cap, just like OFDs, we have one cap. But I can't say confidently.
Okay, and a question, you had said you didn't put any weight on the sale. Was
Yes.
there a specific reason you didn't?
Well, just, it was analyzed, so I looked at the note about when a sale was looked at, it was an arm's length sale. The mailer was filled out arm's length, but as of the sale date in 2013, for the quality of the building and the tenants it had in place, it just seemed, you'd be in trouble, like even if you look at 2018 with the parameters we have now, it's not even getting to that sale price, if that makes sense. So,
Sales 213, yeah. Okay, yeah, okay, that was my
it just stuck out as high for the quality of the building. Seemed like an outlier.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ed, any questions?
I don't have any questions, thanks.
Okay, I'm just gonna follow up on Marcelo's, sorry. So on page 2 at the top, subject property, and then were you referring to the lot to the left, the parking lot, that's now a condominium, so all
No,
the parking spots are gone?
So I'll
or-
show you just right, if we're looking at this page here, this building right here,
Sorry.
you see with the kind of that angle, top right, you can see this is a one-story building beside a one-story office.
Yes.
And then right here used to be an empty parking lot,
Oh.
and they built brand new apartments that just finished this past summer.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
So
Okay.
that used to be a parking lot. Is the
So what's at the bottom of
This is a one-story office building.
Market Avenue?
Yes,
Okay.
that's where Market ends. There's a one-story, there's a parking lot beside the building, and then there's the big, the larger office building there at the corner of Market and Rory.
Okay, so if we look at the subject and we look directly to the left, is that parking available for this building?
It is this parking in the Exchange, I'm not sure the exact, who leases this out, I'm not sure if it's related to 138, but it's all Market, like all downtown Market, like downtown office parking, like it's not, from my understanding, it's not reserved, it's all, like, goes for Market rent, if that makes sense.
Okay.
But
so
it's not, I
after-
don't believe it's saved for the building, no.
So would you know, after hours, would that be available as hourly parking? for-
I've parked there before after hours.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's, okay. So we're east of Rory Street, down towards the,
Yeah, if you take Market River, it
Waterfront.
runs to that dead end, you know, and you can only go left on Bertha from there.
oh yeah, so you go in through the back lane.
Yeah, to the right is like a walking path. You know?
Oh,
So if you
yeah.
go right to the street where Bertha goes right, there's a little walking path, you can take this, and then there's another path that goes right down to a waterfront.
Yeah, okay,
So-
got it, now I know where we
Yeah,
are.
and it's kind of like that, behind it, that John Hirsch is kind of almost like a back lane that has parking. You know, it's a dead end as well, that goes to that parking path.
So would this have been that, would the restaurant would have been that Mexican restaurant?
It was Don Pedro's,
Yeah,
the original
Don
one. Now
Pedro.
it's,
Okay,
now
now
it's
I know.
Saddle on Market, which is
Yeah.
shown as owner occupied.
I think there was something before Don Pedro.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Lots of different ones of it.
Okay.
I believe,
Yeah.
yes.
So it's on the east side of, yeah, Market, okay.
Yeah.
Now I got it, okay, thank you. Okay, Marcelo, when you're ready, 112 Market Avenue,
Okay, 112 Market Avenue, as you can see, it's a 5-story D-class office building. It is registered as a grade 3 historic property. And it is formerly known as the Great West Saddlery Warehouse. If you can turn to the overhead picture, the parking lot beside, or directly to the left of the building, which Jonathan said that he's parked at after hours. During the day, it services 136 Market. So one of the issues that this owner relayed to us in terms of what's happened with this building is that when the plans came through for that apartment building, they had plans for new leases in that office complex. And essentially the plans for the apartment building or condominium, whatever it is, took away all of that parking that they had available to them. So they had previously had access to parking in that parking lot. It essentially wiped away their parking lot. So one of the issues or the barriers that they've had is getting in tenants, and then the tenants asking, where can I find parking? Now, in the East Exchange District, parking comes at a premium. And if you have parking, you guard it like you would gold, because it is vital for office tenancies. This one doesn't have access to any parking. So essentially, you're having to either walk in or bike in. And if you have a young mobile workforce, that's great. But if you have anything other than that, it becomes kind of difficult for them. So in terms of location, it's not the best location. It has very little access to parking. And it was not designed as an actual office building. It was converted. So in terms of the spaces and how it was devised, some of the potential tenants have also pointed that out. The fact that it also, most of the rents are gross is an indication of the fact that you're not going to get those covenants that you would in some standard office buildings. Even older office buildings in the East Exchange District, which were actually built as office buildings, like along the Lombard or on Main Street, some of the more historical buildings. It's had a high turnover, high vacancy. if you turn to page 5, we have the most recent vacancy amounts. So 2015, 2014, 2013. In 2017, I believe the vacancy was quite high as well. I'll just point it out too. Yeah, 55%. So in terms of market rent, we've applied the same market rent as the assessor. In terms of vacancy, we haven't applied the same vacancy. So the assessor has continued with 20%. And this is one of those rare exceptions, I think, where this building has shown that it can't function like other buildings. So we've taken it to 25%, which I believe is the highest that the city actually uses. In terms of shortfall, we've used a $7.50 shortfall rate and unrecovered expenses of 7%. Again, these are not net rents, so there are no recoverables in this building. And in terms of the capitalization rate, we've used an 8.5 capitalization rate, not the modeled capitalization rate. If you turn to page 10, we have a couple of recent sales of historic buildings. One at 259 Portage, which is the Paris building, and one at 423 Main Street, which was the old wheat board building. So both with heritage status, both sold relatively recently, both in better locations. 259 Portage Avenue is closer to parking, so at least it has access to parking. 423 Main Street, I believe, has some parking, but it's also on a major bus route, just as the other building at 259 Portage. These are effectively, in my opinion, better properties, yet the market cap rates that we've calculated on these are 8.87 and 8.94. And again, pointing out in better locations. So for office Ds, you can see on page 11 that we've asked for 8.50, and that's been part of every Altus cap rate study that has been submitted. It also has the historic designation. We have 2 properties here that are historic buildings again. And we have one that is in a inferior location. In our opinion, it's also an inferior building. So again, we feel comfortable in saying that it deserves an 8.5 capitalization rate. Now, there is some revision to be made on this income summary. So we are going with the 39,100 square feet that the assessor has said. It gives us the same income, $356,505. We've gone with a 25% vacancy. That gives us a vacancy allowance of $89,126. 7% non-recoverables, and a $750 shortfall rate. So in terms of the shortfall, that's been adjusted slightly at $58,650 because this space has changed to 39,100 square feet. Vacancy amount remains the same because it's coming off of the income. So the net operating income actually goes from $165,635 to $190,012. Capitalized at 8.5%, that gives us an end value of $2,235,435, or $2,235,000 rounded. And that is my presentation. Open for questions.
Thank you. Jonathan, any
I have
questions?
no questions on this one, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Ed, any questions?
25% vacancy, that's the max, you say the city goes.
That is the max that they go to. If we could go for more, we would, but that is the max that they go for. And again, we treated this from the perspective that you can have high vacancy, and sometimes it fluctuates. Sometimes it goes down. In this property, it's been consistent. This thing has had historically systemic vacancy. So we feel comfortable in saying that it deserves a higher vacancy at the top end. It's never performed well.
And you don't think it will?
I don't think it will anytime soon, unless maybe it's converted into another use.
The zoning right now is C, character.
Yeah, it's, so it's in the character zone, the exchange district. Most of the properties in the east and west exchange are in the character zone. Character, I think, because a lot of the properties in it are protected, they're historic. And so there are some restrictions on the type of buildings that you can build on there. So if you have a parking lot, you can only build at certain density, certain height. Unlike the multiple use sector where you have no real restrictions on density and height, in this area you would. And then also in terms of the type of conversions that you can do on these type of properties. I don't actually think that there's too many barriers to converting this property because it is it is a category 3. So I think the only thing that would not be allowed is knocking it down. But I think for the most part it can be converted into something else. There would have to be demand there.
Are you aware of any restrictions on use in this character zone?
So can it be like, for example, an apartment building, turn it into lots, that type of thing?
That's a big difference.
Yeah, I don't think that there's too many restrictions. It's really a question of demand and having the resources to actually convert it into those things. Because again, it was at one point converted into an office building, so there would be a significant expense to actually converting it into something else, which would.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Thanks, Ed. Rob, any questions?
Yes, have you inspected the property?
I have bottom, top to bottom.
Is the fifth floor in use right now?
When I was there, it was not. I don't know what they use it for, to tell you the truth.
Is it set up for offices?
It was
Physically?
It was actually open space.
Was the fourth floor in use?
When I was there,
East?
yeah. When I was there, I went through the tour. I went through the office areas, which were in use, through the building mechanicals, all of those things. I don't know what's changed since then. This was 2 years ago, but
Did you take the picture on page 1?
no. This is from Google Earth.
Because there's no cars in the parking lot. I'm wondering when this picture was taken.
Well, I mean, Google may have done it on a weekend.
And the picture on page 2 is older. That apartment isn't showing, that's across the corner. It shows on the assessor's brief. Is that correct? Top picture.
Yes, yes. Actually, Google allows you to do time changes on it. So that is actually the reason that I did that, is to highlight that there used to be.
Used to be parking.
Yeah.
Okay. And do you know anything about the sale? The assessor said he thought it was a little out of line. he hasn't used it. Do you know any of the background of that sale in 2013?
So, they had leases in place. They thought it was gonna be a good investment. It was a partnership of at least two people. Parking situation changed, people backed out of leases, and the building went down the tube. And again, it's trying to emphasize the fact that in the exchange district, parking comes at a premium. If you have access to parking, you're gonna have a successful building. If you don't have access to parking, you're not gonna have a successful building. And this one is unfortunately situated in a location where it doesn't have access to building, or to parking. In contrast, the building right next door at 90 Market, which is the single one-story building right beside it, kind of a square building or rectangular
Yeah.
building there, that one has its own parking.
That's on the other side, it's
Yeah,
a big lot area.
so they don't have that issue, but this one does. And again, I looked at the leases going back 8 years, and one thing is consistent, there is high turnover in this building, and that has to be an indication of something.
Okay.
Even in terms of the restaurants that have been there.
Thank you. That's all my questions.
Thanks, Rob. Okay, so Marcelo, what you're saying is the 2013 sale was arm's length. They thought it was, and based on the income at the time, but physically that parking situation is causing a change in the leasable rates that they can achieve, and also the vacancy that's happening. Would that be fair?
Yeah, I would say that it certainly has presented a problem for them, because, I mean, it is an office building, and if you're gonna attract people to your office building, you're gonna have to provide some type of parking. And again, you know, the capitalization rate, we looked at two other buildings that are historic buildings that are probably superior properties that are located, and not too far from the reference date, and they're well over 8.
Okay. Thank you. Any requirement summary? You got Harvey? Good. That concludes 112 Market Avenue. Now, 395 Berry, we've got a 2020 realty appeal, but we have 2 points of contention here. And we're dealing with 2020 value and also classification. Is that right, Michelle?
Yes.
Okay. Barry?
Yeah, I saw a classification checked off, but I saw nothing about it. I prepared nothing for classification.
Yeah.
Let's just confirm that.
So you're withdrawing the classification?
Oh, I'm not withdrawing, I'm just confirming it.
Okay.
Or asking for it to be confirmed.
Okay.
Oh, I'm guessing that it might be the Intertribal Child and Family Services. But I would, at this point, just ask for it to be confirmed.
The classification, okay? Okay, so then we're just dealing with quantum here, so classification confirmed, confirmation. And Jonathan, when you're ready, please, 395 Berry Street.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We're looking at roll number 0702-189-2000. This is 395 Berry Street. This is just to confirm here, corner of Silver and Berry. This is west of Century. You can see the 2020 assessment is $2,831,000. We have a 2-story OFS. Again, similar area as our first few properties. Actual year built 1961, effective years built 1961. We have a gross floor area of 24,768 and a leasable area of 23,905. You can see on page 3 exactly the layout of the building, that they have parking surrounding it. Small, you can see the one row is actually parallel style parking squeezing in there on the top of page 3, and then the bottom of page 3 so it shows the lot where they have 2 rows of parking as well. Page 4, they've always complied with our request for information. Page 5 is our income workup, so again, multi-tenant building with lots of small units. We have a total of 23,905 square feet across the 2 stories, and we have a blended rate of $935 in this building. So that's first floor and second floor rents totaling $935 blended. We have our standard OFS parameters as before, 5.5%, 2% shortfall, $7 shortfall. Our capitalization rate based on the age, size, and location is at 7.2%, and that's how we get that total of. I'll actually make a request to, a verbal request to lower the value, because something has changed between this notice being sent out at the $2,831,000, and you'll see my income workup works out to $2,750,000. So I'll be representing that $2,750,000 today. And if you look on page 6, I am using the same.
Mr. Navarro, excuse me. sir.
Yes.
Mr. Navarro, in agreement? Before.
It surprised me too.
No.
Okay,
Thanks, sir.
thank you.
And then, so the $2,750,000, you see exactly how that's worked out from both page 5 and on page 7. But again, my comparables for this area, I'm using the same as the ones as Empress, so I won't go too in depth on them, but you can see them smaller size units on Ellis and Border, Dublin, Ness, 585 Century. Again, that $12 to $14 range is not out of place. We have an older building here off of a busy street, again, not the same location as Empress. And you're getting $935 for a 1961 built 2-story OFS. So our lower rent is defended there with some comparable rents in the area. You can see reading the same capitalization rate sheet before. If you look on page 10, this is, so you can see it's partially owner occupied and partially rented out with some gross rents. You can see a total rental income on the left-hand side. You can see the expenses are reported. You see the total leasable area and the average space vacant of 7% in this building with 14 tenants. And so this property has 2, I believe, I did double check this, but I wrote it on a different piece here. But they could, but I'm pretty confident that 2 of these were owner occupied, and I believe that was unit 1 and 2, but I'll let the appellant speak to the owner occupiedness. But again, the rest are semi or gross leases in place, you can see on page 12. And that is my presentation on this one. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you, Jonathan. Marcelo, any questions?
Yes. Again, going back to your comparables on page 6.
Yes.
None of your rents actually back up your rent, right?
No, I have superior, higher rents in place here, and the subject rent is lower.
Okay. And are you familiar with this location?
I mean, I've been down the street. I've never been to this building.
Again, 114 Gary Street. I know this one has had in excess of $5 million.
Yeah, absolutely.
In improvements.
I could confidently say I would not use comparable 9 through 12 on a property like this.
Okay. I think those are my only questions.
Thank you. Rob, any questions of the assessor?
Is there any basement use there, any rents for the basement in this building?
Not that I saw. I have 0 basement area, so I believe this is just a 1 and 2 story building.
Okay, so the 935 represents above ground space.
Yes, first and second floor only.
Thanks, that's good.
Thank you. Ed?
Is the wall height actually 2 feet?
No. No, that's some sort of error.
Is it 12? What?
I don't know. That would make more sense than 2, but I can't confidently say.
Did this used to be apartments?
You know what,
It looks like an apartment.
Yeah, I mean, it's got that look. I don't know if it's converted. I didn't see any notes on that, so I can't confidently answer.
All right. Thank you. No further questions.
Thanks, Ed. I have no questions either. Marcelo, when you're ready, please.
Okay. Again, you can see the property on page 2, that's a front view of it and an overhead. There are 15 parking stalls. I drove this property, I didn't go in, and I actually asked the same questions myself. This looks like an apartment building. It is not, it does not look like an office building, and it may have been converted at some point. So, if you look at page 6, these are the actual leases in place. Most of them are, I believe, are semi-gross. Or gross. So we can't really take them into account. Some of the office comparisons that we've looked at. And also, same issue is what type of rent to put on this. We've chosen a blended rent of $839 for 23,013 square feet. That gives us an income value of $192,981. In terms of the capitalization rate, we're a little bit higher than the assessor. We've gone with the 7.25 capitalization rate simply because in terms of location, it does have parking. It's not a great location, although for an office building it may not matter. It's an older building. So we've applied a 7.25 capitalization rate to this, gives us an end value of $2,214,528. And that is my presentation.
Thank you. Jonathan, any
Just a
questions?
quick question that sticks out. In the middle of your page 6, it says units 1 and 2 are owner occupied and therefore require market rents to be applied. So one's an office, one's a warehouse. On your page 7, your workup, you're using 540 and 285 for the first and second floor. Would you agree those would be a little below market if you're going to apply market rents to owner occupied space?
Yeah, they may be, yeah.
Okay, thank you. That is all my questions.
Thank you. Ed, any questions?
The leasable square footage is different than the assessment. Not by much, but 900 square feet.
We have the leasable area as shown by the owner at 23,012.5 square feet. So 23,013 is what we rounded off to.
And the assessors has got 23,905.
Yes, I'm not sure why the discrepancy is. So we've gone with what has been listed. We'll also show that, I mean, in terms of this property, it's netting $136,396. So, I mean, I think we're actually both overstating the income of this property.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Rob, any questions?
No questions.
Thank you. Marcelo, page 15, your workup. Assessor's using 5.5% vacancy, you're using 7%. Is there a reason why you're at 7%?
We have adjusted the vacancy upward.
Oh.
It has shown some higher vacancy, so that is the reason.
Thank you. That's my only question. Any requirement for summary?
Nothing.
At all, okay. Just to confirm the value, so you've got a revised, or you've got a recommendation based on revised.
Yeah, on page
Rents.
5 and page 7 show the 2,750,000.
Okay. And so you're at 2,215,000, is that right?
Correct.
All right. Okay, thank you. That concludes 295 Berry Street. And next one is 1793 Portage Avenue, 2020 Realty Assessment Appeal. Jonathan, when you're ready, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have roll number 0702-177-8000. This is 1793 Portage. You can see on page 2 at the top, it is just on the corner of Portage and in between the corner of Portage and Berry Street and Portage and Hampton. Again, we have a small one-story OFS, built in 1950, effective year 1950. Leasable area 3,360 square feet. This includes the main floor and basement. You can see on page 3 they've always complied with our request for information. Page 3 also shows sale back 2009 for $165,000 in 2009 is what it sold for. Our model generates of that 1,600 square feet. We have $12.51 on the main floor, and then we have the substandard basement for the same size at $3.13. All models arrive. Our standard OFS parameters based on size, location, and effective age, we have a 6.2% cap, so it's $372,000 for the property. Page 5, I've added some. You can see there's 4 net rents on Portage. I found trying to keep it, you can see on 2,000 Portage and to 1,800 Portage on Parallels 1 for 4. There's a rent from $12 to $16 for office space. Parallel 3 is a much larger size. I wouldn't put much weight on that $15 rent there just because of the size difference, but you have 2 smaller offices built in 1953 and 1929, comparable 1 and 2, $13 to $16. Our blended rate, I didn't say what it is. $781 for, if you're including main space and basement. I have not been in this property. I am unaware of the actual quality of the basement, but we have it as one that's put in a substandard basement, so often that is just storage. Page 6 and 7, I'm not going to go through the cap rate sheet again. Page 9, just owner occupied property, shows the expenses and the total leasable area of 1,725 square feet. That is my presentation. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Marcelo, any questions?
No questions.
Thank you. Rob, any questions?
What do they do in there, do you know?
What is the business? I am not aware of what the business actually is.
But it's an owner, you said owner occupied.
It's an owner occupied, 1-story kind of little, port shop on Portage. There's a bunch like it kind of.
Okay, that's good, thanks.
Thank you. Ed?
Any comments on the sales this week?
That $165,000, I don't know. If the owner bought it for that and then it's arm's length back in 2009, it doesn't seem reasonable. 2009, $165,000. 10 years later, what's it at is the question.
Okay, thanks.
That's it. Marcelo, when you're ready, please.
Okay. Do you have numbers on your pages?
Mine's up in bit it's upside down, but we got numbers.
Here,
Yeah.
pass those around, and those are, it's the same brief, it's just got, I fixed the issue
Okay.
and put numbering in the. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I see.
So I can just replace.
Yeah. So you can see a picture of the property on page 2. The business is a mortgage broker. Yes. And again, on page 3 and overhead, on 3 and 4, overhead pictures of it. I believe I might have got the wrong property here. It's not the Yaffa Cafe, it's the one that's right beside it. So we looked at the rent for this, obviously not a high rent. We've, I think, used a very similar rent in terms of the main floor area. The only difference is we have it's a nominal rent for the basement area. So the argument is, what value does that basement actually bring to the property? If you were a potential tenant, it would probably be included in the rent for the main area and just be given as excess. I'm not sure that most people actually charge for a space like that, because if it's not functional office area, then there's no need to charge for it. We did put a nominal value of $250 on it. That gives us a rent of $750. Vacancy 5.5, shortfall 7, unrecovered expenses 7, capitalization rate of 7.25. You can see the end value is $294,207. And in reference to the sale price in 2009, $165,000. The value of this property would effectively would need to more than double if the assessment is correct. So I'm comfortable where I am at 294, 207. Do you have any questions?
Thank you.
I have no questions.
Jonathan, got questions? Okay, Rob, any questions?
You have put value on the basement though, even though you're saying it's probably, you haven't been in the property?
No, I've driven all of these properties, but I haven't been in all of them. I've been inside a few of them, but not this one. We've assigned some value to the basement, but in most cases, I think if you have a space that you can't use, it would generally be included in the rent of the main area. No additional rent would be given to it. We assign a nominal rent to it, yeah.
I suspect there's no windows.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all my questions, thanks.
Thank you. Ed, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, and I have no questions either. Requirement for summary from either party?
Not
Okay.
that
That concludes 1793. Portage Avenue, and last property in the docket is roll number ending in 91800. Jonathan, when you're ready, we're dealing with 2020 realty assessment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We're looking at roll number 12097691800. This is unit 101 of the Hydro Building on Portage. So the Hydro Building has first and second floor of units that are separately valued from the rest of the building. So each of these separate units, you'll see, we actually have another docket next week with a bunch of the other units in the building. So there's a mix of, you have the Royal Bank, which is the one we're looking at today. You have Rudy's, you have a dental office on the second floor. So just to get your mind around kind of what the layout is there, but they are separately leasing out those units that they built on the first and second floor of the property, right? So Hydro isn't occupying those. So this one is occupied by the Royal Bank. So it was built in 2009. We have an 8,592 square feet gross lease with a leasable area of 8,592 as well. We have a total value of $4,135,000 for the space. Again, it was difficult to get good pictures of this unit because it is a unit on the main floor, but you can see I've included where the Hydro Building is, which is Portage and Carleton. I'm sure you're all aware. And then page 2 is just a front view of exactly where that unit is. If you're looking at the front of the building on Portage, it's on the right-hand side of the building across from Portage Place. So page 3, they've always complied with our request for information. Our income stream for this workup is we do have it classified as a bank. We have a separate bank classification for properties, as there are enough in the city and enough net rents to have them as their own classification. So this one is income stream OFA because it's in an OFA office. As I went over before. We have OFA, OFB, OFCLP. Hydro building is an OFA, top of the line, recently built downtown office tower, one of the few we have in Winnipeg. But long story short, we have it as a bank. The new built bank in 2009 is driving a rent of $32.68. We're using all of our 2020 bank parameters, so we have a vacancy loss of 7%. We're using the OFA parameters with the bank classification. So I believe I'm gonna say that, whether it's driving that, I can't remember exactly if that's the same as the whole rest of the building, but, again, we're using a 7% vacancy, 2% expenses, $13 shortfall tips me off that it's an OFA, as you have a higher shortfall on OFA properties, and then 6% overall capitalization rate, and that's how we get that total value. If you look at page 5, I've put together a list of bank comparables across the city. You can see most of them are built 2000 and later, and you can see what kind of rents that the newer builds are doing. So if you look at, comparable number 3 is 1,200 grand, built in 2016. It's a 15-year lease, 6,200 square feet at $32. So again, not unreasonable for a new bank build. You can also see that comparable number 6, 2785 Pembina. We have a 2007 build for a 2-year lease, 6,300 square feet at $32. You go down 2 more, you see a bank built in 2013 on St. Mary's, goes for $31.50. And we have another, you can see comparable number 15 is a brand new build in Bridgewater at 2017, and it's getting $45 a square foot. So you can see the $32 we're asking for this Royal Bank is not unreasonable within the market. And then the actual lease in place, I will point to on page 11. So if you turn to page 11, it's the actual Hydro fills out each of these units mailers for us, and you can see the monthly rent in place is $22,250 a month, and if you times that by 12 and divide it by the actual square footage of 8,592, you're getting a rent actually in place of $31.07. So very close to our model bank rate of $32.68. So again, all the factors kind of are defending this rent in place here, and that is my presentation. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you. Marcelo?
Yes. I am looking at comps 3, 6, 7,
Yep.
12, 14, and 15.
Sure.
And these are your high ones.
Yes.
You might actually include St. Mary's in there. These are standalone banks, are they not?
Yes, all standalone banks.
And you're aware of what a built-to-suit is?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So you're also aware that these typically involve other costs,
What do you mean?
some development costs in them.
Yeah, you could do a built to suit where the lease is higher because they built it for units worked into the lease or something like that. I know that exists.
And our building is a standard office lease, correct?
Absolutely.
In
Yeah.
an office building.
The actual lease in place, right? That's what I
Okay.
read.
Okay. That is my only point. Thank you.
Thank you. Ed, any questions?
No, I don't have any.
Thank you. Rob?
On page 11, the lease, am I reading it right here? It started in '09 and it's
Yes.
ended in
19.
June of 19.
Yes.
Okay, and you don't, well, the new one wouldn't be right. Okay. That's all my questions, I just wanted to.
Thank you. And I have no questions. Marcelo, when you're ready, please.
Okay. Sorry, these got flipped around again. So on page 1, you can see a picture. I think everybody knows which building this is. Just a brief explanation of the building. This is a LEED certified building that is very efficient. So operating costs tend to be quite lower than your typical office building, at least your typical A-class building. On page 6, you can see, on page 4, you can see some of the tenancies. have seen some comparables there. We left the rent in place. We think it's indicative of a rent in downtown for a bank. In fact, it's higher than most rents in the downtown for banks. And again, taking into account that this building operates a little bit more efficiently than other buildings. Some of the expenses that would be there at some of those other buildings would not be present in this. So this is an aggressive rent. We think it's a good rent, even though it was dated in 2009. These rents tend to be higher for banks than they would be for other types of tenants. And it is close to the actual the bank comparables that some of the bank comparables that the assessor has, and you also have to take into account that those are actual standalone buildings. So if you turn to the summary on page 19, I'll just go over this one with you. So the rent is $31.08 for 8,592 square feet. That gives us an income of $267,000. Vacancy of 7%, non-recoverables of 7%, and shortfall of $1,250. That gives us a net operating income of $223,410. If you apply to 6.25 capitalization rate, that gives us an end value of $3,574,565. The value that we're asking for is $3,600,000. And in the appendix, you can see some of the pictures that we've taken. That is my presentation.
Thank you. Jonathan, any questions?
I have no questions on this, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Rob, any questions?
The cap rate, 6 point, the assessors use 6, and you're using 6.25. You had said it was a LEED building, it's a good quality building, low cost. Could you explain why you use 6.25?
So if you look at our downtown office, our rates start for the best properties at 6.25 and go to 6.50 on page 17.
Okay.
So it is at the lower end of our downtown A. And then you have to take into account that there's only so many downtown A office buildings. But that is the reason why we chose 6.25.
Okay. I see it, I see it. Yep, that's good, thank you.
Thank you. Ed, any questions?
Small difference in shortfall, 13 square feet by the assessor, and you've got 1,250. Thumbs up on page 19.
Yes. I believe the shortfall is what we've applied to the entire building. So we have applied a lower shortfall, I believe, right?
Okay.
Yep, yep.
Thank you. Marcelo, just your declaration of a total value, you said $3,600,000?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I think you rounded.
$3,575,000. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, any requirement for summary?
Not for me.
Good, okay, Marcelo, you're good? Okay, that concludes 360 Portage Avenue, that concludes our hearing today. Thank you both for appearing.